It was Christmas 2009 and Joe McElderry was set to top the Christmas charts, but there was an unlikely contender facing up against this year's X Factor champion. Because it had become the norm for reality TV talent shows to claim this once coveted chart position, Simon Cowell's show The X Factor scheduled its finale to coincide with the Christmas charts. This Christmas, music fans united and they stood together to say, "F*** you, I won't do what you tell me." Hey up guys, Davey H here. This chart battle drew me in just like it drew everyone else in. And this whole thing does have a very unexpected winner. The best place for us to start is by going over TV talent shows. TV talent shows have been around for a very long time. The original Amateur Hour was a radio series in the US. This show would introduce the world to Frank Sinatra when he was with the Hoboken Four. But when television replaced radio as the dominant broadcast medium in the 1950s, successful radio shows such as the original Amateur Hour were adapted to go on TV. And it was the same in the UK. The long-running radio talent show Opportunity Knocks made its way onto TV screens in 1956. We then moved on to shows like New Faces, which produced stars such as Lenny Henry and Victoria Wood. In the US, they went on to have TV shows like Star Search, which produced Destiny's Child, Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, and even Alanis Morissette. And although undeniable talent would be displayed on these shows, they weren't seen as launch pads for big stars. In the early 2000s, TV pop contests changed. Pop Stars, Pop Idol, Fame Academy, Making the Band, these shows were all precursors for the talent shows created by Simon Cowell. But who is Simon Cowell? Eric Cowell was a music industry executive at EMI Publishing. Eric would get his son Simon Cowell his first job in the music business, working in the mailroom at EMI. Simon Cowell would leave to start ENS Music. He went on to form Fanfare Records with Ian Burton, and in 1986 he had his first hit song, So Macho, by the pop star Sanita. He got a job working as an A&R consultant with BMG and he set up S Records. He created novelty music acts with the likes of Zig and Zag, the Power Rangers and the WWF. In 1995, two actors, Robson Green and Jerome Flynn, starring in the UK TV show Soldier Soldier, sang the song Unchained Melody in an episode of the show. Now, Simon Cowell knew that the popularity of this TV show and the popularity of the two actors would likely result in the song being popular, so he convinced the two actors to release it. It became an immediate hit in the UK. They released a successful album, and Simon Cowell has stated that they were the ones who made him his first million. Cowell would then go on to sign acts including Five, Westlife, and even the Teletubbies. In 2001, Simon Cowell partnered up with Simon Fuller, who came to prominence in the 1990s as the manager of the Spice Girls. The two Simons went to ITV and pitched a show called Pop Idol. Pop Idol took influence from the earlier UK TV talent show called New Faces, which was the first show of its kind to have a panel of judges, and Simon Cowell would become a judge on Pop Idol. The two finalists, Gareth Gates and Will Young, would both be signed to Cowell's S Records, which is owned by BMG, now Sony BMG, and they both would have #1 hits. Simon Cowell's new generation of shows, such as The X Factor, American Idol, and the Got Talent franchises, took the popularity of TV talent shows to a whole new level. Reality TV was all the rage in the early 2000s, and these shows took advantage of this and gave the public what they wanted by showing the process and the behind the scenes of the series in a reality TV style. Rob Wade, a former executive producer for The X Factor, said it was almost like a documentary to begin with rather than a shiny floor show. It was the Simons who took the idea of that and made Pop Idol, and Idol was the first fully formatted singing competition as we know it. Anyone could apply for these shows, and the applicants would be subject to the scrutiny of a panel of judges. And as a judge, Simon Cowell would take on the role of the antagonist. An antagonist exists to put obstacles in your protagonist's path. They're there to create conflict, because we need conflict in storytelling. I mean, without conflict, there isn't really a plot. People would tune in every single week just to see his harsh persona and his brutal appraisals of the contestants.
You are where you are now for one reason and one reason only. You are a loser.
You could draw parallels to him being almost like the pantomime villain of the show.
Oh, okay, it's a weird place to stop.
Oh.
No, I'm glad you did.
A judge that wouldn't just pass comment on the contestants' talents.
That was terrible.
Really?
Oh, dreadful.
But their personalities.
I know.
And you have the personality of a mouse.
And even their physical appearances.
It looked like the before, during and after of Weight Watchers.
Having a judge that could and would say anything with no holds barred provided shock value, and it also gave the viewing public permission to voice their own opinions of the contestants. Now, throughout the audition process, we're introduced to each of the contestants and their personal stories. And this gave us the characters that we could relate to and we could get behind. The show basically became a drama, and what they are competing for is the stuff of dreams. They have the chance to win a shortcut to a place that can take artists years and years of hard work and graft to get to. This makes for very compelling television, and I can completely see why people become fans of these shows and want to watch them every single week. I mean, they're designed to get you emotionally invested. Yes, there is a musical element to them, but they are TV shows at the end of the day. They're not about music. A lot of highly respected and legendary musicians spoke out against these types of shows and the impact that they were having on music. Sting called the show televised karaoke and said that real talent is more likely to be found in pubs and clubs. Damon Albarn of Blur criticised the show for creating a mindset that suggests you can get something for nothing and that it's easy to acquire status and fame. Moby has said that although the show does produce talent, it cheapens music. Annie Lennox claimed that the X Factor is a factory and it's owned and stitched up by the puppet masters. MC Kinky summed up the views of a lot of people. Shows like the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent reduce the art of making music and practicing your craft to the level of a low-rent game show with huge financial backing and support. It's a means to make money, not a means to produce groundbreaking or interesting artists that demonstrate what they are feeling or compelled to do. It's corporate. This corporate backing and control of the most popular media outlets of the time had made it so music artists couldn't compete with what these shows were offering. Okay, so what is it that gives a system its power? It's the people. Masses of TV fans supported these shows, so what music artists needed were masses of music fans to stand up against this system. Now, in 2008, a radio DJ called John Mortar created a campaign on Facebook. The campaign was to get Rick Astley's song Never Gonna Give You Up to Christmas #1. At the time, there was a really popular meme called the Rickroll. Getting this song to Christmas #1 would have been the ultimate Rickroll. And although this campaign would not succeed, and the X Factor's Alexandra Burke got the #1 spot, it wasn't a failure. I mean, the campaign got 30,000 followers in the first week alone, and Never Gonna Give You Up peaked at number 73. It has been speculated that there was a deliberate lowering of the rankings due to Sony believing that its ranking was ridiculous. The following year, 2009, John Mortar and his wife would try again. John Mortar said, "When this year came around, I just thought, let's have another go. If anything, last year was fun." This year's campaign was even bigger than the last, and it was supported by some of the biggest names in music like Dave Grohl, Muse, The Prodigy, even Paul McCartney. And it was a really interesting song to choose for the campaign. John Mortar has said, "I felt it was a perfect antithesis to anything the X Factor would put out. The X Factor puts out cover songs, and it's pretty safe to say they wouldn't be putting out a cover like this." He also said, "Plus, as a bonus, the feeling of the song just fit perfectly with what I wanted to do." Rage Against the Machine is a band from LA. They made a huge impact on the music scene with their self-made 12-track demo back in 1991. They landed a deal with Epic Records, and they're known for their outspoken anarchist political views. Their debut self-titled album released in 1992 was a huge success, and the lead single Killing the Name has become the band's signature song. The campaign was already gaining a lot of momentum, but Simon Cowell, always ready to play the antagonist, really pushed this campaign to another level. Cowell commented, "If there's a campaign, and I think the campaign's aimed directly at me, it's stupid. Me having a #1 record at Christmas is not going to change my life particularly." Cowell also said, "I think it's quite a cynical campaign geared at me that is actually going to spoil the party for these three. There were more eyes on the show and the outcome of this year's Christmas charts than there had been for a long time." In the end, Joe McElderry sold 450,000 copies of his cover of The Climb by Miley Cyrus, and Rage Against the Machine sold 502,000 copies of Killing in the Name. So the mob ruled and took back control of the Christmas charts. But this victory wasn't the end of the story. Okay, go on. So the campaign didn't spoil the party for Joe McElderry. He would sell another 195,000 copies, and he would take the #1 spot the following week. And in June 2010, Rage Against the Machine came to the UK and performed a free concert for 40,000 people in Finsbury Park, just to say thank you to the people who bought the single. And at the concert, they presented John and Tracy Morton with a cheque for over £162,000. These were the donations made from the charity campaign that they also ran alongside the Facebook campaign. And this was also combined with the royalties that Rage Against the Machine made from the sales that they amassed during the campaign. And this was all donated to the homeless charity shelter. Simon Cowell contacted John Morton the day after the winner was announced. He commended us on how we had marketed the campaign, and he said that if we won, he wanted to be the first one to congratulate us. Now, this was a very kind gesture on Simon Cowell's part, and I for one do think that this was sincere. I think what he cares about is sales figures. This story of the battle for Christmas #1 in 2009 created a brand new narrative that engaged a completely new audience. It engaged people who didn't even watch the show, and it got people who actually despised these shows to spend their money to support the campaign. And yes, we managed to stop the X Factor's monopoly of the Christmas charts, and there was lots of money raised for charity, which is an incredible thing. At this point, these shows were by no means experiencing a decline in popularity, but they were not reaching the same numbers as they once were. In 2005, the X Factor winner Shane Ward claimed the Christmas #1 spot, selling 742,000 copies of the song My Goal in its first week. In 2006, the X Factor winner Leon Lewis released the song A Moment Like This. Now, this was downloaded 50,000 times in the first 30 minutes of its release, and it sold over 100,000 copies on its first day alone. In 2007, though, the winner Leon Jackson took the Christmas #1 spot, selling 275,000 copies of his single When You Believe. Now, this is still a huge number, but it was nowhere near the numbers previously achieved. I think there could be a real possibility that Simon Cowell might have made these comments about the campaign to encourage people to get behind it. In 2009, McElderry sold 450,000 copies of his single, and Rage Against the Machine sold 502,000 copies of their single. That's a combined total of 952,000 single sales. Simon Cowell's S Records and Rage Against the Machine's Epic Records are the real winners here. And who owns both of these record labels? Sony. When John Morton found out that the campaign was successful and they had done it, he said, "I think it just shows that in this day and age, if you want to say something, then you can. With the help of the internet and social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter, if enough people are with you, you can beat the status quo." The record companies were the ones that profited. But for one Christmas, people united, took on and beat the status quo. And in 2009, music lovers of all genres stood together and as one voice shouted, "F*** you, I won't do what you tell me." It's quite a story. You know, we really do live in a very different world now, one in which just pressing the like button and subscribing to the channel can mean the world to a guy like me. And it's also a world where we have access to so much information that it is hard to know what to do with it. I mean, check out this video. I mean, I know you'll know what I mean.